I reckon we're live, Stephen.
Hello, everybody. Welcome
Ooh.
to, we've just been talking about what we're going to call the program. It was White Line Fever last time. It might be TFI Thursday. Who knows? We're raking over the coals of one of the most historic rugby league games, I think, since 1895, really, with the NRL being the first major contact sport back with content. And on the same day, they announced a new TV deal. Welcome to the program, Jimmy.
Yeah, it's been a big day for the code, hasn't it, Steve? Big day for the Parramatta Eels and a lot of those people who thought, yep, 2020 is the year of the Eel. They have started this season with 3 straight wins. That was a really, really dominant physical performance against the Brisbane Broncos, 34 points to 6, and we'll get to a lot of that throughout the course of this show. But you're right. The other big news for the league is the fact that they have secured a broadcast deal for themselves. They've renegotiated what was already on the table from Channel 9 at a bit of a reduction for the next 3 years, including this year, and then have extended with Fox Sports out until the end of 2027 season. Without knowing the numbers exactly, Steve, first thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I guess my first thoughts on I'm a little bit cynical. I noticed the last few days, Peter V'landys, who's done extremely well and is a hero to a lot of people, I think, the chairman of the NRL, he's been doing a lot of sort of human interest type stories. I think he probably had a day at his desk where he just had journalists coming in and out doing interviews. And I think maybe that was a little bit to soften the blow of, the stark fact that the NRL has accepted less money. But we know that with this COVID-19 situation, that the broadcasters, they had the broadcasters over a barrel and the broadcasters had them over a barrel. And this long-term security, perhaps not a bad thing. I think it could be the last significant sort of traditional rights deal that we have in the game in Australia, because I just don't see the model staying the same certainly not beyond 2027.
Yeah, so if we look into that a little bit deeper, if we go back 7 years from this point and know how technology and especially media technology has changed so much in that period of time, then the question is, what's it going to look like in 7 years' time? Very hard to gaze into your crystal ball and be accurate around that, but we do know that there are some huge non-traditional media companies that are certainly making their presence felt in Australia, whether a site like Facebook, which we're on at the moment, whether they have an appetite for long-form rights is another question altogether, but it'll be really interesting. To be honest, based on what's happened in the COVID environment, and we might go through another 6 years of prosperity. We do not know that, but based on what has happened, if we get the numbers, if we think Fox is paying roughly what they had paid previously, and remember, last time was a record deal, a significant increase on the deal prior to that, and if Nine has reduced their amount by around about 20%, we think is the figure that's coming through, to end at the end of 2022 with the opportunity for a free-to-air broadcaster to come in at that point. And the restructuring of the cost base that we know Peter V'landys has talked about a lot, I reckon it's actually not a bad deal for the league.
The good thing is it appears that the NRL have hung on to the lifeboat, which Channel 9 certainly wanted them to give up, which is their digital operation. I noticed watching some of the programming on NRL.com this week that they're giving far more deference to the partners. Peter V'landys says you don't sell your lunch and then eat it. So there's certainly been saying, well, you can watch this game on Channel 9 or KO or Fox or Sky, or you might want to watch it here, but you know what I mean? So they're actually happy to sort of pay lip service and maybe be a bit subservient now, their in-house operation, but it's still there, so that when the current deal's up and when a traditional media has collapsed almost completely, then they can reactivate it and they can sell direct to the consumer.
By the way, we're going to take questions. If you want to get us on the rugbyleaguehub.com Twitter page, or you can get us on the Facebook page as well. If you want to ask us a question during the course of tonight, we're more than happy to answer those. Mate, why don't we start with the game tonight? I think one of the big things that we were all interested about, and I'll even go as far as to say a little concerned about, is the one referee. To be honest, I didn't think there was the wrestle in this game that I was anticipating. Maybe these two sides aren't big wrestlers. I know for a fact Broncos aren't huge wrestlers, but overall, I love seeing forwards get tired in the middle. And I think that's what we saw tonight. I'm still jury out on this 6 again ruling for the referee.
Yeah, we saw the 6 again for a ruck infringement after maybe 90 seconds of the game. I really enjoyed a comment on Facebook, which we retweeted, on Twitter, from an old colleague of mine at Rugby League Week, Kelly Woodlands. She said it's great to see the creative players, make decisions on the spot and be facing a backpedaling defence and not just have these robot-like block plays. And I don't know whether that was a function of the two teams we're watching tonight or a function of the rule changes. I'd like to think it was a bit of a function of the rule changes that with the 6 again, that there was a bit of spontaneity in the game that it's been lacking in recent years. So I was a huge fan of it. I was a big fan of one referee too. I thought the players were so scared of conceding the 6 again that they didn't need the second referee. So it's a kind of budget cut, isn't it? It's like I may not. Well, it's like I may not see you, stealing paper out of the photocopier, but if you get caught, you're sacked. Whereas, before, people still have photocopiers, but, before, if you got caught nicking paper out of the photocopier, you might get a breach, or you might get a rap over knuckles, or you may not get invited to the office party. But now they're like, we haven't got an eye on you in the photocopier room, but if we catch you, you're sacked. And I thought there was no stealing of paper out of the photocopier as a result today. And I really hope that that stays the same for the rest of the round.
Of all the things you could steal from the office, paper out of the photocopying machine, was it that?
Yeah, well, you might need the paper for other purposes during lockdown. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
you.
But you shouldn't be in the offe. So don't go into the office just to steal a photocopy of paper,
especially when the camera's on. When the camera's on. 34 points to 6. Sorry. The one try that Brodie Croft scored, the one Broncos try, I thought that was a result of a middle forward getting time. Marata Nuakora couldn't quite make up his half yard there for Brodie Croft. So lends weight to what you were saying about the middle forwards getting tired. But they were just too powerful. Parramatta Eels, they've got Junior Paulo, who's got that little bit of skill about him too. Penny Terapo, Ryan Madison was strong. Kane Evans came on and made an impact as well. And, that's the type of thing I was anticipating from the Broncos. Payne Haas, I think Vossi said it throughout the call a couple of times. He still did some really nice things. His numbers will be great, but certainly didn't have the impact on the game that they would have been hoping for.
Yeah, it could have been a bigger score too. I thought that pass to, was it Sivo on the left was flat. Probably should have been let go. That was a try that was called back. Lovely cutout ball. Mitchell Moses had a great game. The thing is, they had the kind of control and the boring bits down pat. Para. They were better at that as well. And then they managed to take advantage of the extra momentum off the back of tiring forwards and the new rules as well. So they were able to sort of mix the two ways of playing really well. Brisbane have got some really promising forwards. They're kind of similar teams as far as age and kind of pedigree. As far on paper, they're sort of both quite young sides with a few established players. And I just thought a bit extra power and creativity, and maybe from a coaching point of view, Brad Arthur won that one over Anthony Seibold tonight as well.
Yeah, interesting point too. I know the game didn't suit him because they just didn't have any footy, but Anthony Milford. So he was quiet, there's no doubt about that. But then you start thinking, okay, Dylan Brown, I don't know what Dylan Brown's getting paid, right? And it shouldn't ever come back to this. But when you have a finite resource in money, in that you're working under a salary cap, the impact of Dylan Brown compared to Anthony Milford, who's $1 million player, you didn't get $1 million worth of value out of Anthony tonight.
No, I barely noticed him actually.
Yeah. And I know they didn't have any ball, so we've got to be fair on that. But that's the concern.
Everyone got very excited tonight away from the footy, Jimmy, about the fact that it was on Fox Sports 1. It was only announced a few hours before kickoff. It's the main sports channel on Fox. And I know one guy who I think was Australian, and he was on Twitter pretending to be American, going, "What's this?" You don't tweet with an accent, but you know what I mean. He was pretending to be a naive American, watching just so you see how many retweets and patronising answers he could get, and favourites and follows. And
hang on a minute. What is it about him when he was saying he's American that made you think he was Australian?
Because I've heard the guy's name before, and I think I've spoken to him before, and he's not American.
Give us his name. Are you prepared to out him?
Yeah, I think his name's Jack Cronin. Maybe I could be wrong. I might be defaming him, but I swear I've had a conversation with him before, and he's not an American. I don't know, you know. And it's like we all like I've been through this, right, for like 40 years of getting excited about rugby league putting in front of foreigners and stuff like that. And I think it's great. And no one ever else cared. When I got excited about that sort of stuff in like the 90s, no one else cared. They just cared, you know, who's going to win between Para and Manly. So it's really, really good now that everyone gets excited and everyone else tries to see rugby league through the prism of an outsider, a novice, okay?
Front page news today. How many? I think it was 300 million that we're going to watch.
Yeah. So that's, you know, but also, unfortunately, you know, and I'd like to just like share the enthusiasm and say, welcome to the club. Isn't it great that you see the world this way? But unfortunately, I'm also, for that to happen, I've got older. And as I got older, I've got more cynical. And so I can kind of like, I have to divide, in my mind, I divide the impact by 20 or 100 that people think it's going to have. Because I've seen these sort of dawns, you know, over and over again, over the course of my life. And this is on Fox Sports 1 in the middle of the night. And
what about East Coast? What about East Coast?
Yeah, it's early morning. So it's
if you're waking up Thursday,
late night. Yeah.
If you're waking up Thursday morning in New York, surely you're saying, honey, can you just flick on the league? I think the Broncos are playing the Eels today.
Well, you hope so. And certainly I was sitting there going, you know, I was sitting there from a merchandising point of view. I was sitting there going, you know, Mascot Browns really should, you know, we should push into America a bit this year. Just make sure that when people get on and they put in Parramatta or Eels jersey and they're in America, that the SEO puts it on the first page. That was what was going through my mind a little bit.
You know what? You might be older. You might be more cynical, but you're far more commercial than the Steve Mascot I once knew. Anyway.
But, you know, so I think it's an important first step, and it was a great thing. And Peter Volandi's kind of, you know, it's hard to believe that the NRL was sort of so surreptitious and cunning that they didn't, like, they let it leak out that it was showing up on TV guides. It was great theatre, and I love the fact that rugby league fans in Australia now care. They actually do go, well, how many people are watching it and blah, you know, because a lot of these same outlets and the same people and their dads didn't care. You know what I mean? So that's wonderful. But let's sort of temper our expectations a little bit, you know?
Well, everyone's trying to expand their market, right? Whether it be domestically or internationally. Every sport's trying to do that. So you got to look at it. If you're sitting down and you're watching that for the first time, and I know this firsthand because I've got family in the US, and I show, you know, my generation, males, the sport I played, and they can't believe it. Mm-hmm. They can't believe it. Where's your helmets? Where's your pads?
But like, and as anyone knows though, mate, like, I mean, if you have a favorite TV show that happens to be Swedish, or you got a favorite band that happens to be from the Ukraine, and you love them and you keep trying to sell them to your friends, but in the end, we still live in a world, even though we're talking about the atomization of the media, we still live in a world where unless it's on a big platform, then it's never going to get the exposure, no matter how good it is. The world's not a meritocracy, you know what I mean? And so just being good is not enough. And rugby league fans just thinking that because the sport is good, that it's going to sell itself. That's cloud cuckoo land. The world doesn't work like that.
That's classic chicken egg stuff, isn't it? Right? It's got to be good to get more eyeballs, and then it's got to get more eyeballs to be able to be seen to be good.
It's got to be more than good to get more eyeballs, Jimmy. You've got to have the right people come in at the right time. You've got to have coincidence. You've got to have commercial sponsors. You've got to have people with influence and money who think it's good. It's not enough for you or me to think it's good. There's so many things. And again, if I talk about music, even when there was a record company, you know, there's great records that were released in 1989 that no one heard. And it was often just down to personalities, who your manager was, whether there was a talent scout, an A&R guy in the audience when you played it. And rugby league is like that. Rugby league's just like in America is like a promising band in 1991 trying to get signed. You know what I mean? So tonight they opened for Van Halen at Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? was there anyone in the audience who can change things for them? You know what I mean? That is the key. Not whether they were good, not whether they played any good, or whether the people in the stadium liked them tonight. Was there one guy in the 60th row who could get him a record deal? And that's
I get your point. I get your point. Let's get through that point and move past it quickly. Okay, Eels 34 points to 6 over the Broncos. It was a big win. Tomorrow night, we've got the All Queensland Cash. Cowboys up against the Titans. Titans looks a little scary for them this year, Steve. Justin Holbrook's come from the UK where you are now, and he's got this enormous reputation. He's done everything with the St Helens Saints, but first 2 games the Titans had no effort. They were poor. They gave up 70 points in total, and they've come up with a couple of strange... Jamal Fogarty gets an opportunity at halfback. We wish him all the best. He's a 26-year-old that's coming in for his 3rd NRL game, but Tyrone Roberts at fullback, question marks over that. I know Michael Morgan's out for the Cowboys, but they look far too strong.
Yeah, from memory, Tyrone Roberts he's played a bit of fullback when he was in Newcastle. Is that right? He played a bit of fullback. Yeah. I seem to remember covering games. He's not. I think he's a good positional player. He's good at and sort of creating opportunities. He's got good vision, but it's just the speed, isn't it? You just wonder if he's got. And he's also not a tall guy, so. Certainly the St Helens fans over here will be, watching that game closely and hoping that Justin sort of, his team kicks on and they're at least competitive.
Roosters Rabbitohs is the second game, and this is a blockbuster. This is the free-to-air game as well as on Fox, of course. Roosters 0-2, the defending back-to-back premiers. Cordner back, so he's a big in. Josh Morris is going to play as well. Rabbitohs, Latrell Mitchell at fullback. So speculation, he's come back. He's looking in good nick. He's going to be asked to play fullback. I still don't see him getting out 80 minutes. There's so much demanded of a fullback in that 80-minute period. But this is going to be another huge clash.
Yeah, it is. I mean, to have this that game this weekend and also the Storm taking on the Raiders, it really is like having a second bite at round 1, isn't it? You feel like... it feels like a new season, and it feels like the first weekend's full of blockbusters.
Warriors Dragons, probably not a blockbuster. That's 15th versus 13th. So this is a home game for the Warriors, Central Coast Stadium. They're staying up there now, and this is a time when Dragons. We know Tyson Frizzell is off to Newcastle. A lot of pressure on Paul McGregor at this point, but this strikes me as a bit of a toss of the coin game.
The Warriors are sort of everyone's second favourite team. I like the idea that our clubs are like looking at loaning players to the Warriors now, like they do here in England, the whole loan system. It adds a bit of theatre to the season. I hope that when this is all over, we still have the loan system in the NRL. There was an attempt, I think, at the start of this year to do a swap between West Tigers and Melbourne. Michael Maguire was behind that. Didn't happen. So I hope that the legacy of this period is that we had the loan system in the NRL.
I'll actually correct you on that, and because this comes into what I wanted to say about the West Tigers who are playing the Sharks in that second game on Saturday, and that is that had been approved, that loan, for the first time ever in the NRL. So well done to Michael Maguire, Scott Woodward and the team there at the West Tigers. They got their man Harry Grant, who would have been behind Cameron Smith and Brandon Smith, 2 international hookers at the Melbourne Storm. This guy is a star in the making, and he changes the West Tigers straight away. Luke Brooks is back. Adam Dewey's back at fullback. The Sharks have had all sorts of controversy this week. Can't help but think that's got to take their mind off what's happening on Saturday night. They're favourites with the bookies, but, gee, I think the West Tigers, people are misreading the West Tigers because they were woeful in their round 2 game against Newcastle. I reckon they can win this game.
Yeah, you're right, because I think you look at the news cycle, and at the moment we've had unbroken 7 days of Peter V'landys and all this sort of stuff, social distancing, drugs positives, blah, blah, blah. And now suddenly there's just a giant full stop, and there's a series of full stops now over the next few days. There's actually games. So the controversy over Cronulla with the drugs positive. That will be now out of the news for a few days while the games are played, and then it will resume. And I guess in a future episode of this program, we might be discussing the timing of that announcement. On the NRL have asked it's Bronson. How's it pronounced? Zeri.
No, Sherry or Cherry?
Sherry Bronson.
Sherry.
Yeah. So there's obviously going to be some questions asked about the timing of that announcement. His drugs positive and what motivated that. And so I guess we'll read a bit more about that next week.
Storm Raiders, you're right. This is a cracker, isn't it? First up, you feel like you talk about it. It's round 3, right? It's not a new season, but you get the sense that the Craig Bellamy record in round 1 of his coaching career is relevant to what is going to happen in this game. Raiders, they were pretty impressive in their first couple of games. The Storm always hit the ground running. They're just an incredible organisation. The Raiders beat them twice down in Melbourne last year, including in the semi-final. So that's going to work for them as well. But Storm for me in this one.
Yeah, Melbourne. I think Melbourne. I agree. Not that we haven't actually done tips for the other games, have we? So why start now? But yeah, if you are asking, Melbourne.
I actually did his tip also. By the way, we're getting a few people through on Twitter suggesting the Jack Cronin that you are suggesting that he is not born in the USA. Outrageous. And I'm just seeing it here. It's at Jack K Cronin. So Jack, get involved, and he's got an American flag beside his name as well. So
miraculously today.
That's as American as it gets for me, I would have thought.
Yes. I think he almost called himself Uncle Sam,
Uncle Sam Cronin. He may well be related to Michael Cronin.
He may
be. Sunday, Panthers and the Knights. I reckon Nathan Cleary. I just think Nathan Cleary's going to have a spectacular season. Not because of the TikTok dancing, and certainly not because of his dancing, but he's away for this game. That's going to be a problem for them. And I reckon Adam O'Brien's doing really good things up there at the Newcastle Knights. I called that game in round 2 where they flogged the West Tigers. They look pretty solid. So I'm going to go for the Knights in another game where I'm tipping a winner, Steve.
Yes. So, Jimmy, before we go, I guess maybe people are interested in what we've been doing. And as people will be aware that we showed some Super League games as a trial, and we're ready to go behind our paywall for round 8, and then round 8 never happened. So I get a lot of people on social media asking me what's happening with that. We're waiting for news on Super League returning, and as soon as we know how that impacts upon us, we'll tell you. But we have a website, which is rugbyleaguehub.com. There's a newsletter there you can sign up for. We have a Twitter account, which is LeagueHubCom. We have Facebook, which you're perhaps watching on now, or maybe you're listening to the podcast, and that's facebook.com/LeagueHubCom. And the audio is on Whooshka, White Line Fever Kicks. And so you might be listening to just the audio of this program. In my case, you've got the long straw because you don't have to look at my terrible lockdown haircut and my lack of a shave. And we invite everyone to follow us on those channels. And as soon as we know what's happening as far as our broadcasts are concerned, then you'll know. Anything to add there?
Yes. Yeah. We're really excited about the season coming up with Super League. Unfortunate about the timing of the lockdown and the abandoning of the competition, but that's a very small part of the impact of coronavirus around the globe at this point. It has an impact on us, but we're really, really keen to build our audience, and we know that there's a great love of the games out there in the territories that we have, Australia and Southeast Asia. The point to be made about Super League is that we're showing games that have never been shown in this part of the world before. So every week we get 2 games live from Fox, but we're also showing the 4 other games that are covered by a single judiciary camera. So you want to see Sonny Bill Williams, you want to see Israel Folau. Next year, if you want to see Greg Inglis every week, then you've got to come to Rugby League Hub to do that. So that's very exciting from our point of view. And, obviously the fact that Steve Mascourt is involved is pretty exciting from our point of view, one of the most respected journalists in international rugby league. So It's exciting times, mate, and that's not all. Too, I hate to sound like Tim Shaw in the steak knives guy, but wait, there is more. There is more to be revealed at an appropriate time. But commercially, yeah, we're very excited about what's coming up. So, mate, we've got one more game. Can I just go through the last game? Because
I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, because it's the Seagulls up against the Bulldogs. I think the Bulldogs are going to have a really tough time because they've got a couple of inexperienced halves and they might have a tough season. But I think the Seagulls are a massive chance in season 2020 in this competition. I think they've got four players that could easily slot into the top 20 players in the league. And I'm talking about Tommy T, DCE, they're pretty obvious. Jake Trbojevic, outstanding. And Aden Fanua-Blake is a very, very good player. So I reckon that's a side that can really do things this year, and I expect them to win on Sunday.
From what I read, they've become the Fibros, Manly. Yeah, from a distance. That game is very early. I mean, I guess, people who are watching in Australia might be interested in how the coverage played out. Certainly here in England, I can tell you that Sky had a soccer football program on that went right up to kickoff. Like, we got the teams just warming up in the sheds.
Yep.
We got the Fox commentary. We haven't mentioned the crowd noise of the sort of canned crowd noise. I thought it worked great. I thought it was really
Fine.
good. You still kind of think. I think sometimes when there's no crowd, you might like to hear the referees and the players more, but I am in the minority there. No one else likes it. I'm the only one. And that's just my news sense. I like to hear what they're saying, and might be a story in there, but no one else wants to hear them, and I accept that. So I thought that went really well. And then right on full time, that was it. We didn't get any sort of post-match interviews or any Matty Johns. At halftime, we got the Fox ad that said, "Get all your mates around and blow up some balloons." That is against the law in this country still. So just ignore that if you live here, okay? You're not allowed to get your mates around. And balloons are fine, but just you and the balloon, okay?
Should we make sure there's a taper going across there, excluding these territories?
Yeah.
which we might do in the future. We might do. The big news, of course, is that we wonder what the TV numbers are going to be like tomorrow, because that's one of the things, isn't it, that NRL were able to get back 2-3 weeks before the AFL. There's a lot of hand wringing and a bit of consternation down there in AFL land, saying, well, how come they can do it and we didn't? We usually lead on this, and they didn't on this occasion, much to the delight of a lot of people involved in the game of rugby league. But it's going to be really. I got the sense, Steve, that the TV numbers for Channel 9 and the TV numbers for Fox League are going to be astronomical tomorrow at 9 o'clock when they come through.
Yeah, this is, even though I said earlier that don't get too excited about the number of people watching. It's not as big a deal as you think it is. I mean, this is nevertheless an opportunity that the sport won't ever get it or won't get again as far as exposure, international exposure. So regardless of whether you think that it's going to take over the world, or you think that it's not going to make any impact at all, it's important the sport tries to make the most of this opportunity and this clean air. So no one, I'm certainly not denigrating the opportunity, and I certainly couldn't criticise the efforts that the game has made so far.
Yeah, most definitely. And the bonus of that too, and look, as I said earlier, we've got a sample space of one game, but one game into this season with the one referee, and I think we've got a pretty good game. So that's really exciting. I don't think they were two big wrestling teams. It's going to be interesting when those teams who do wrestle really well get involved in games and they see how far they can push the referee, and to see the response from the coaches afterwards, et cetera, that will be the interesting part of it. But tick as far as one referee goes for night one of the NRL in 2020.
Yep, yeah, I liked it, and you just got to hope that the referees, respond in a way that minimises that wrestling. We'll see tomorrow.
Getting a question here on Facebook, wanting to know whether we're going to do this every Thursday after the footy. I say yes, Steve. We are in deep negotiation, ladies and gentlemen, with
Look,
Steve
we could do it
Mascott
after,
about his availability.
we could do it after every game, if you like. We could do it 4 times a week. But I mean, then where does that leave us when Super League starts up again? We're trying to cover Super League, and then we're still talking about the NRL 4 days a week. I mean,
you know what we do? I'll tell you what we do, mate. I'll tell you what we do. We're the classic television network there, because if you watch the news and a TV network broadcasts a particular sport, invariably it leads the news, right? Because when Super League starts again, Steve, we will be talking Super League left, right, and centre.
I think it'd be interesting. Also, we don't know the possibilities of maybe doing this occasionally from a ground. For rights holders, there's so many possibilities that could be opened up by this. But I thought it was important that when we actually had games going again, that we kind of showed everyone that we're still around and that we're engaged and that we have plans, that we're not just sitting back on our hands. So, thanks to all the people at very short notice who've tuned in or downloaded the podcast or whatever.
And I'm very available for Perpignan in August. So just to let you know. Great stuff, mate. Just a wrap of that. First game back, round 3. First game back of contact sport pretty much anywhere in the world. The Parramatta Eels have run out 34 points to 6 victors over the Brisbane Broncos. Good clash. Good work tonight, mate. And stay well over there, because I know you're still going through difficult times there in London, but great to catch up, mate, and thank heavens the rugby league is back on.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone for tuning in as well.